projects that you choose to get into as the Women's League. But probably I could get to you, Dr. Malka. We'll look at the impact that the Women's League had prior to democracy, and looking at the impact that they have now after democracy into this democratic South Africa that we're living in today. Can we safely say that there is a grave impact made by the Women's League currently?
I don't think I'm in a position to comment on the Women's League because I'm not part of the Women's League, but I can certainly comment in terms of the work and the studies that I've developed, and looking at the statistics and the data that we've had within society and the likes of Stats SA. My position is the fact that from a woman's point of view that we operate in a postmodern society. We deal with multiple complexities, whether that be from our own personal living, within the home, within the work environment, and how we tackle and address those components in society. But there are, I think there's very disturbing figures. If you look at it, we represent 52% of the population. But if you start going into the workforce component, that ratio shifts to being 44% women versus 56% men. And interestingly, 82% of women in employment are actually in low-paying, skilled positions. Further to that, if we're doing the same work as men, we earn 77% of our male counterparts' salaries. So you're doing the same work, but you're being under-remunerated. So those are some of the issues, and one of my motivators in terms of helping that transformation amongst women is through education, because education is a tool of empowerment, and that is where our success lies. There were some interesting quotes by and in the UK, where they talk about the fact that they've got such a huge body of educated women that it's going to transform in the next 30 years their entire management structure. And we're going to see the similar entities in South Africa. If I look at the number of undergraduates, looking at the ratio of women to men, we are currently at 58% women to 42% male ratio on undergrad. And at a postgraduate level, those figures are again very high in favor of women, of 57% female versus 43% male. So we've got strongly educated women that are coming out and going through into society, and that's one of the areas where change will occur.
We continue our discussion on the relevance of the Women's League, and you can, of course, continue to share your comments on our Facebook and Twitter pages. You're also more than welcome to call us and to share your views. Now, before we took an ad break, we had a caller on the line, Dr. Mazibuga, speaking about support that is not coming from government for women in the rural areas. And before I give you an opportunity to respond, Mama or Edna, possibly I could start with you, Doctor, and speaking about the stats when it comes to women in rural areas being empowered, being educated and being skilled.
I don't have stats on rural women. However, I think that one very important factor is looking at the opportunities of education, and there are a number of bursaries and facilitations that either happen from institutions themselves or from the Department of Education. For instance, there's one young lady that I'm very familiar with from Northwest. Just her name escapes me at the moment, Mojaji Rampelo, who, a very young lady, is now studying journalism through China University, and has totally empowered herself from coming from a rural village, being the first woman as well to graduate from her village to go on to higher education, and she is formulating as a role model not just within her immediate family but also within her society and collective, so that other young women within that environment are looking up to her, and she, for me, is what I'd call a change agent. She's infusing and influencing her immediate surroundings in order for women to look beyond their immediate surroundings and go forwards and realize what they can achieve. It's not just about following on traditional roles, but it's looking outward, and in her position, she specifically is looking at journalism as a way of having a voice and having her voice heard out in the broader public. But looking at just more leading from the education statistics, which I think is quite a disconcerting number, is that within the business environment, there, according to a study by the Business Women's Association, we only have 4.4% of CEOs on the JSE stock exchange listed companies are women. And given that we account for more than half the population, that is a really astounding statistic, which needs to be readdressed. And it's not just a case of having bodies like the ANC Women's League, but it's about a whole collaboration. There are so many issues, and it's being able to have these different communities or institutions that have evolved to address particular issues and drive those specific agendas forward. Whether it be corporates with their various interventions, like Coca-Cola has an initiative, their 5x20, where they want to empower 5 million women by 2020, or fulfilling the Millennium Development Goals. And I mean, one of the key goals with the UN's Millennium Development is about education.
Just through some of those positive progress, if there are any.
Oh, I'm sure there's a number of programs, but there's a lot of things from a society point of view that we have to readdress and almost rewire. We traditionally come from a very patriarchal society, which undermines women, and it's looking at interventions that take place, be it the likes of the Gender Equality Act, and to have meaningful representation of ideally 50% between male and female across public as well as private sectors. And I think from a government point of view, we've done exceptionally well, where we have, I think it's 44% representation of women in Parliament, and we are rated, I think, 8th in the world as within the Inter-Parliamentary Union on our representation of women. And that's where we've got the power to start changing and having interventions coming through from a government level. Those are the policies that then are dictated throughout a society point of view. Plus, we've got the likes of yourselves, strong female media representations. You're a spokesperson, you're a role model that is projecting out into society. Plus, it's not just about the acts and the interventions that are coming through from women, but it's also from our male counterparts. There's a whole transformation that needs to take place within society on perspectives and perceptions to drive change in a positive direction.
How can we as a society, as government, as private sector, really work together to alleviate women from the challenges that they're experiencing, employment-wise, socially, violence, so forth and so on?
Well, it's exactly what you're saying. It's about having collaborative efforts, and it's collaboration that you can think of. We've got almost like your external or outside-in strategy being driven through from various government policies or corporate initiatives that are taking place. But there needs to be strong implementers that ensure that those, we have quota systems. If there is a 50% representation, that those quota systems are driven, and possibly that there are punitive components if those policies are not adhered to. But then there's also the aspect of driving change from an inside out strategy of women in their own environments and how they are driving and empowering themselves, be it driven through from an education point of view. Education opens up possibilities, and it gives people choices and those options to change, and it's about driving self-perceptual changes as well as external changes. But everything has to work together. These are not isolated issues. There's no one individual who can hold the magic piece of the puzzle. It's about all of the different components within that puzzle coming together to complete the picture. And I don't think we've still got a long way to go. We've absolutely made inroads, be it through from the ANC Women's League or from other bodies. But until we get to a stage of equality, I don't think we've won the war.
We can possibly wrap it up by asking you, Dr. Malka, how we as a society, how we can instill hope back into the women of the country who are despondent over the challenges that they face.
I think we had a lot of despondency raised by some of the callers and some of your Facebook viewers with their commentary. But it's about reaching out, and there are got ANC Women's Youth League, ANC Women's League, we've got various other leagues or institutions that are in place, and it's reaching out into the wider network to grow proactively and to bring in hope, bring in achievement, bring in success. And it is about hard work and looking through to the right places, whether they're political areas or corporate avenues or just informal networks that we've formed within society to instill that hope.
And Dr. Malka, when we look at the issues of support and really bringing back that hope, can we see that the private sector is actually doing that in going back and giving that support to women out there?
Yes, I mean, you can see it in terms of employment quotas that they're looking at, and that's obviously also addressing discriminations from the past. But going forward with positive interventions, as I mentioned, there was the Coca-Cola initiative. There's other initiatives that are taking place to drive that through and empower from an education point of view. But I believe that this isn't just a once-off. It's an initiative that's driven through from a corporation. It has to come through from multiple areas of society to drive that change collectively. And I think until we get to a 50-50, we've still got a long way to go.